Hello everyone, myself Michael Ravina, Associate Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, and the subject is CS 3492 Database Management Systems. The unit is Database Design, and the topic is Entity Relationship Models and ER Diagrams. Entity relationship data model. Entity data relationship model is a classical and a popular conceptual data model. It is first introduced in the year of mid of 17th, and it is one of the pictorial. It represents like a pictorial diagrams and which are easier to read than relational database schemas. It is one of the popular model for the first conceptual representation of data structures in the process of the database design. Entity and entity set. Considering the example, that means the student table, student is an entity, teacher is an entity, and also similarly class, subject, extra are also the entities. An entity is generally a real world object which has the characteristics and holds the relationship in a DBMS. That means if a student is an entity, then the complete data set of all students will be the entity set. Attributes. If a student is an entity, then the student's roll number, student's name, age, and student's gender, and those marks, these are considered as an attributes. It will be the attributes of the particular entity. An attribute can be of many types. There are here different types of attributes are defined in ER database model. These are the attributes. First one is the simple attributes. The simple attribute means the attribute with values that are atomic and cannot be broken down further or simple attributes. For example, student's age. It cannot be broken down into another attribute. Okay, next one is the composite attribute. A composite attribute is made up of more than one simple attribute. For example, student's address will contain house number, street name, as well as the city name and the pin code, etc. Next one is the derived attribute. These are the attributes which are not present in the whole database management system but are derived using other attribute. For example, average age of students in the particular class. These average can be determined from another some of the attributes. Okay. This is known as derived attribute. Next one is the single valued attribute. From this name we have clearly understand they have a single value. Next one is the multi-valued attribute. The multi-value attribute means they have multiple values. These are some of the types of attributes used in the ER model. Next one is the ER relationship. Relationship means when an entity is related to another entity, they are said to have a relationship between them. For example, a class entity is related to student entity because students studied in the classes. Hence, this is a relationship. Depending upon the number of entities involved, a degree is assigned to relationship. For example, if two entities are involved, it is said to be binary relationship. If three entities are involved, it is said to be ternary relationship, and so on. Like this, these relationships are represented. Next one is the working with ER diagram. How the ER diagram is represented with some of the representations. ER diagram is one of the visual representation of data that describes how data is related to each other. In ER model, we distinguish data into entities. That means attributes and set up relationship between the entities. All this can be represented visually using the ER diagram. Components of ER diagram. What are the components are involved in the ER diagram are represented here. Entity, attributes, relationships, etc. form the components of ER diagram, and there are defined symbols and as well as the symbols or shapes to represent each one of them. Entity means simple rectangle process represents an entity. For example, in this example, student, subject, these are the entities. This can be represented by using the rectangular box. Next one is the relationship between the entities are represented as by using the two manners. That means weak and strong relationship. Suppose if it is a weak means, then they are represented by using the double shape, that is rhombus, is used to set up the relationship between the two or more entities. Suppose if it is strong means that are represented by a single symbol. Next one is the attributes for entities. The attributes are represented by using the ellipse. That ellipse is used to represent the attribute of each entity. It is connected to the entity. In this example, author, date of publish are the attributes of the particular book entity. Next one is a weak entity. A weak entity is represented using double rectangular boxes. It is generally connected to another entity. In this example, loan and installment are the entities. In here, the double rectangular box is represented as installment, which is the weak entity for the particular relation. The next one is a key attribute. The key attribute for an entity is represented by using the ellipse with the particular key attribute value is underlined. Next one is the key attribute contains another value, derived attribute for entity. The derived attributes are those which are derived based on the other attribute. For example, age can be derived from the date of birth. This type of entities are represented by using the ellipse with another dotted ellipse. The ellipse can be created within the main another dotted within main ellipse. Multi-valued attribute for entity. The double ellipse one side another represents the attribute which can have multiple values. For example, the double ellipse can be represented for multi-value attribute. Next one is the composite attribute for any entity. A composite attribute is the attribute which also has attribute. The attributes may have another attributes are known as composite. So here these are all are represented by using the ellipse. Next one is the ER diagram for a particular binary relationship. If it is binary relationship, that is the one-to-one relation. Here the binary relationship between two entities. This is further classified into three types. First one is a one-to-one relationship. This is the type of relationship rarely seen in the real world. For example, person that has a passport. This is the one of the one-to-one relationship example. Next one is a driver is related to car. This is one of the one-to-one relationship. Next one is the one-to-many relationship. That means the below example shows the relationship, which means one student can opt for many courses and also but a course only have a student. In this relationship, one mother have number of children. This is also one of the example for one-to-many relationship. Next one is the many-to-one. In the many-to-one means It reflects the business role. That means entities that can associated with one entity. For example, student enroll for only one course, but a course can have many students. This is the many to one. Many students are occupied with the one courses, but one student, particularly one student has a one course. This is the example for many to one relationship. Next one is the many to many relationship. In this many to many means the above diagram represents a one student can enroll for more than one courses and a course can have more than one. That means for each attribute, that means student attribute and also the course student entity, also the course entity, they have more number of relationship with some between them. That means students, more number of students, one student can has more number of courses.